We all have a propensity to screw things up, and we don't say this to shame ourselves or even to shame each other. We explore this idea of the ways in which we screw things up as an opportunity to grow. And in order to grow, we need a safe place for gentle confrontation and loving conviction. It's in this gentle confrontation and loving conviction that we find our way to confession. And by confession, we mean to surrender our weaknesses, our faults, the ways we've screwed up or broken things in the world. Those are the things that we need to confess. We surrender to the forgiving love of Jesus. And in doing so, whether we confess out loud or quietly in prayer in our hearts, we seek practices of confession that lead to transformation. And by the way, confession might be a difficult word for some of you, maybe because of the places you've come from. I get that. That's okay. But there's something beautiful about telling the truth, right? And so by confession, we simply mean telling the truth. Every time we confess the ways in which we've screwed things up and missed the mark of loving others the way God loves, we open ourselves up to the mending work of the cross. The cross of Jesus reminds us of the human inclination to hate the things we should love. Jesus died a violent death of crucifixion at the hands of haters, blinded by their own anger, their own jealousy, hurt, and confusion. And yet, because of God's love towards us, the broken body of Jesus invites us back into the fullness and the freedom of God's love in our lives. But we don't get there on our own. Confession is our way of acknowledging the sober reality of our humanity and our need for God's love to transform us. And it's in this confrontation of acknowledging the ways in which we've screwed up and in our confession that we experience the mending and healing power of Jesus. So today, in this Lent season, let us embrace gentle confrontation and loving conviction together as a church community. If we have a propensity for breaking things in the world, imagine what could change and transform with our collective commitment to confession. What would open up in our lives if we owned up to the ways that we've messed up? How could confession change our posture towards the world, towards others, even towards ourselves? Would we soften up or relax a little bit, or maybe breathe a little easier? If we prayerfully release the brokenness we've caused or contributed to? Would we find more empathy and compassion towards one another, more common ground in our connection, knowing that every interaction we have with each other is an interaction with another human who screws things up too?
Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Here's my heart, Lord. Speak what is true. Here's my mind, Lord.
So, as we enter into a time of confession today, let's pause and honestly ask ourselves a few questions. And we encourage you to journal your answers to these questions for prayer and further reflection. Are there past experiences that affect the way I approach confession? In what ways have I intentionally or unintentionally screwed up or broken things lately? Who have I injured with anger, neglect, abandon, jealousy, gossip, or indifference, and so on? Is there a pattern in my life that slowly chips away at me or the people around me? An addiction or a small habit that erodes my character or my relationships? Like a spending habit that prevents me from being generous in other ways, or maybe a way of fighting with my spouse or my partner that creates more disconnection over time rather than the connection we both need. How am I a part of what's broken in the world? How have I contributed to the collective human propensity to screw things up?
Here's my life, Lord. Here's my life, Lord. Here's my life, Lord. Speak what's true. 'Cause I am found. I am yours. I am made pure. I am clean heart. For I have turned my face from you. Save us from our ways, oh God, oh God. For we have turned away from you. Lord, have mercy. We will run to you, we will run to you. Turning from our sin, we return to you. Father, heal your world, make all things new, make all things new. Turning from our sin, we return to you. Father, heal your world, make all things new, make all things new. We will run to you, we will run to you. Turning from our sin, we return to you. And Father, heal your world, make all things new, make all things new.
There's a prayer in the book of Psalms that says, "For as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is the love of God. And as far as the east is from the west, so far God has removed our transgressions from us." May you discover God's grace and peace in your pardon, in the absolution and the release of the ways in which you've screwed things up, the ways in which you've sinned and the ways in which you've caused or contributed to breaking things in the world. Through the broken body of Jesus, God extends unending forgiveness and transforming love always. May you accept this gift in your commitment to confession today.
We make his love too narrow by false limits of our own. We magnify his strictness with a zeal he will not own. We make his love too narrow by false limits of our own. We magnify his strictness with the zeal he will not. There's a wideness in God's mercy, like the wideness of the sea. There's a kindness in his justice, which is more than liberty. There is a welcome for the sinner, and more graces for the good. There is mercy with the Savior. There is healing in his blood. We make his love too narrow by false limits of our own. And we magnify his strictness with the zeal he will not own. There is grace enough for thousands of new worlds as great as this. There is room for fresh creation in that upper home place. Souls of men wide will be scattered like a crowd of frightened sheep. Foolish hearts, why will you wander from a love so true and deep? We make his love too narrow by false limits of our own. And we magnify his strictness with a zeal he will not own. We make his love too narrow by false limits of our own. And we magnify his strictness with a zeal he will not own. For the love of God is broader than all. For the love of God is broader than all. For the heart of the eternal is most wonderfully kind. For the love of God is broader than all. For the love of God is broader than all. For the heart of the eternal is most wonderfully kind. For the love of God is broader than all life. For the heart of the eternal is most wonderfully kind. Amen. 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 Amen.
As we approach Holy Week and Easter, we remember that Jesus knew what was waiting for him. He knew that we were about to bring our worst at him. He knew that his friends would flee, that one would betray him, and that his people would turn against him. And he still set a table and served a meal and welcomed them there. As we walk towards Holy Week, we're approaching a table set for us and for our neighbors, in spite of our failures, to receive a meal of love and forgiveness. So today, May you be willing to lean into the ways you've screwed things up with gentle confrontation and loving conviction. May you embrace confession as simply a way of telling the truth. And may you experience forgiveness as Jesus' way of inviting us back into the fullness and freedom of God's love in our lives. Grace and peace to you.